Yogah Karmasu Kaushalam.
There are plenty of practical techniques available. One of them is information gap activities, which is a concept that promotes intrinsic motivation, that is information gap activity. Information gap activities are goal driven activities where one or more learners are given information which the other do not possess. The significance of information gap activities can be supported, for example, by the evidence referred to in many of the books. Gap activities are likely to produce bigger output for language development than other tasks. We may also refer to the fact that for speakers it is satisfying and meaningful to be bearers of new information, and for listeners it is meaningful to receive information which they do not know. They argue that for teachers it is reasonable to try and put learners in positions where a functional information gap exists. That is, learners really need to seek certain information which the other learners possess. Nation and Newton refine the concept of information gap activities further. They argue that the term information gap activities actually includes two different types of tasks: split information and superior inferior arrangement activities. On the whole, they distinguish between four types of activities according to how the information need in the activity is distributed among learners. 1. All learners have the same information cooperating arrangement. 2. Each learner has different essential information, and followed by that, one learner has all the information that the others need. The learners all see the same information, but each one has a different task. Dealing with other activities may also include crossword, where each learner in a pair receives a different one with different words missing. Working in pairs, learners take turn to define the words which the other learners misses. If learners have not done this before, it is useful to pre-teach language such as 1 down and 4 acrosses, etc. Crossword puzzles are particularly helpful for recycling vocabulary and are useful for practicing communication strategies, namely circumlocution, and there are tools on the internet that allow teachers to design their own crossword using the words they want their learners to practice. A useful tool is, for example, a crossword maker available in Oxford Teachers Club. Followed by the crossword activities, you have superior inferior arrangement activities, which are the examples like drawing a picture or a treasure map. Drawing a picture is an activity which requires little preparation. A teacher prepares a simple picture or a drawing the simpler way so that the others can follow it well, particularly the one who is listening to it. And that also allows the listener to listen to instructions carefully. Another type of information gap activity is problem solving. Learners role play two colleagues who work for an agency which placed an advert in a newspaper. Based on their interview notes, the photocopy of which they receive from their teacher, they are asked to tell each other about the best candidate they have interviewed so far, and so on. Like, they talk about the strengths, they talk about the weaknesses of the candidate. Finally, they reach to desired amount of conclusions, but a lot amount of listening and speaking and a lot of exchange takes place. So meaning is crucial as far as such activities is concerned. Cooperative activities can also be listed down among the same. The arrangement of cooperative activities are such in which all learners have the same information and work together to complete a task. An example of it could be ranking tasks, and they somehow help the learners to come out with different kind of arrangements to be followed on the basis of the kind of instructions they receive from the side of their teachers. Learners are asked to rank their preferences of restaurants according to the photographs they can see, or maybe the places they might have visited. But the point is that in order to make the task more competitive, one idea to tell learners to try and persuade each other about their points. That works well. Once again, this activity provides a good opportunity to pre-teach functional language. Another type of task which falls under the cooperating arrangement category is joint task. These tasks can be easily arranged because they are well covered online and in books preparing for Cambridge exams. Their outline is always the same. Learners work in pairs and are presented with pictures or photographs related to a certain theme. They are asked to discuss the prompts and reach an agreement following the instructions. Finally, teachers may want to set learners a time limit on this task, such as complete the task in 3 minutes or 5 minutes. There are many methodological points in which you can say, when saying that time limits encourage learners to reach a higher level of performance, and because of that evident consideration, time limit is one of the basic requirements. Interviews can also be quite functional as they involve personal experience or opinion sharing, a fact which means that learners engage in interactions that interest them. Interviews can help a simple outline, such as providing learners with questions they can choose from to interview others in a group or a pair or in a kind of open class setting. They can also involve learners in taking notes of learners' answers in a creative way. Take for example, completing a map of one's life path or filling in a questionnaire which learners discuss together. Learners can also conduct interviews on selected topics, asking various people questions which they prepared themselves. Although interviews based on questions may seem an activity which is easy to prepare, the truth is that it is not easy to collect questions that are stimulating enough. If an interview is not end up in a rudimentary question answer routine, teachers may want to look for questions that will instigate longer turns, encourage learners to ask follow-up questions and promote further discussion. Therefore, teachers should be particularly selective in their choice of questions, whatever resources they use. And this can enlist storytelling also. Storytelling can be well followed up by retelling also, wherein they also have to involve themselves into kind of memory game. They have to relocate everything in terms of their memory, and then they have to come out with their sharing of jokes, anecdotes and whatnot. So storytelling and somewhere dealing with retelling also helps or prompts the learners to be more reasonable on their learning part. It is a technique which is slightly different to storytelling, which is retelling. In reference to other authors, you can say that Harmagwestia informs that retelling is a process of rememorizing what we listen to and read. They also mention the positive influence that a retelling technique has, saying that it promotes learners' ability to rearrange information from the texts. It develops their language knowledge through the internationalization of the texts, features and outcomes that are that do not have difficulty using target language. Retelling is a kind of, you can say, creative activity. We have also observed that presenting learners with short texts which they retell each other is effective in terms of enhancement of their communicative abilities. The texts to be read can be accompanied by several questions to push learners with further output. Role plays and simulations likewise can also help us other way of promoting speaking. Learners pretend to be in various social contexts and have various social roles. Role plays are often designed for pairs but can also involve more people. It can be also a group. An example of an interesting role play to be acted out in a group of 4 can also be feasible or accessible. 2 learners play a couple of holiday makers who have complaints about a hotel. Another 2 learners, the owners of the hotel, feel that the complaints are unjustified and so on. Like, we can come out with a very interesting conversation between the group. So there are many such practical activities which enhance the basic level of interest within the learners to come out with wonderful solutions to the practice of learning speaking and delivering well with the linguistic concerns. Altogether, when we talk about the other practical aspects, we can also conclude with discussions on general topics or general issues, which are followed by also some of the language games. I believe that using many of the practical techniques, we would be able to come out with justful solutions to our classroom requirements. Dealing with discussions would definitely allow us to come out with something that is more concrete, something that is more creative. This word creative also reminds me of the use of creative games, creative tasks, which can also be further utilized. I believe that this discussion would help us progress further in the days to come, particularly when we go to our classrooms. A lot of theory surrounding this area requires further research, and on that note of request from my side, that we can also take up this idea of researching into speaking skills, I conclude.
I would like to thank Dr. Deep Trivedi for such an elaborative and interesting module on teaching speaking. Really, he made it so easy that now, I guess, by using most of the techniques he has talked about, we will make our classrooms very interactive. It's not always necessary that you can use all what he has talked about here, but yes, there are many things which many of you will like and you will take home, and you will take it to your classroom and make your classroom really speaking and more interactive. Now I have some questions to discuss based on what sir has talked about. Dr. Deep, the first thing which comes to my mind is, why is teaching speaking comparatively less researched domain? What do you think? What may be the reasons?
One of the basic reasons that I have observed so far as my classroom
Yes, sir.
teaching experience is concerned
Sir.
is because of the fact that majority of the conversation is live, and it requires immediate responses, and
Very
the record
true.
systems that we have, they require a lot of technological advancement as well. With due limitations somewhere, the part of research is lacking as far as the 4 skills are concerned. It's speaking probably we need to emphasize more upon, because that is a live language and that carries a lot of context altogether.
So at the same time, friend, what I look at it as one of the area which is really less researched. So this is an opportunity for all of us to think of this. We can guide our students or ourselves to research on this area which is really less researched. Another question which comes to my mind is, what possibilities or scope do we have in terms of finding more effective practical techniques to grow further and understanding and researches into teaching speaking?
There are ways we can progress further. I believe that not a lot of content has been produced as far as spoken texts are concerned. Something on spoken texts, if we could explore further, and if we could come out with
Yes.
further details, elaborative contents, if we could share, probably that will help larger mass. Again, I emphasize upon the use of technology to a further extent, because
Yes.
not every area is well connected. We need to connect everyone with a specific purpose.
Yeah.
Generating a data would be one of the key factors, and that can be carried out only with the due amount of research.
Yes. When you talk about technology, I have a question related to it, that whether technology can help advance in consent domain?
Yes, absolutely. I believe that all the students so far into disciplines like engineering, pharmaceuticals, we can take up even the fields of medicine. But then everywhere, probably I have noticed that the students growing into a specific domain, they require exposure in the company of technology, because technology helps them preserve, technology helps them progress in terms of maintaining the context.
true.
And not only that, I believe that the tools are there. Using the tools will probably help us progress with the desired amount of results.
Yes, it's a valid point, I guess. Another point which comes to my mind related to this is which academic changes as teachers of English can we recommend to be incorporated within the contents of syllabi to improvise more on speaking?
Maybe a few days ago only, if we recall the newspaper pages, there was something very interesting printed that after almost about 20 long years, the syllabi of medicine is going to be revised.
Yes, very true.
I think revising and improving, they go hand in hand. I believe that almost all the universities these days, they are in a kind of transition phase wherein they are willing to update the syllabi, but then they require a specific idea to be incorporated in terms of a system. So it is expected that almost every university will come out with something original. It will come out with something that is context specified, and within the four skills, I believe that speaking needs to be emphasized a lot. That syllabi part, I believe that has the capacity to reach to students. That turns out to be the access tool. So better we focus on those grounds.
Very true. I would like to have my thoughts on speaking, friends. Exactly what happens is when some students study mathematics, and if you give him some sum or a problem of mathematics, it may not be very difficult for a person to solve that problem if he has really studied it thoroughly. What happens to the students of English? When it comes to speaking English, sometimes even writing English, that means when we talk of skills of English, I've seen it across the country in many of the universities and colleges that even after studying English for many years, in some states, English is compulsory from standard 1. I'm not talking about the institutes where the medium of instruction is English, but I'm talking about the institutes or schools or colleges or universities where the medium of instruction is not English but other tongue. What happens is, even after studying English for 12 years, that is from standard 1 to 12, then studying it again in undergraduate for 3 years, and maybe then in postgraduate for 2 years. So that means the study is about for 15 to 17 years. And even after that, the students are not able to come out with desired or expected skills of language. This happens, I don't say that this happens everywhere, but it happens at many places. So friends, I guess that we need to focus more on improvement of the skills. And when we talk on speaking English or when we talk on speaking skills, this is one of the skill which is most neglected skill. What happens is, I know the reasons, friends. The sizes of the classroom, syllabuses, examination, there are a lot of constraints. But yes, I know that you and I, we together can make a difference. If we decide that we will devote some time to interaction in classroom, if we decide that we will give a challenge and chance to the present generation. You know, friends, this is the generation which loves challenges the most. Look at the games which are coming. Even they are ready to take a challenge till death. There are games which government has to ban. What is the basic funda? What is the basic central line which attracts them to such games? And that is a challenge. Challenge them to speak. Challenge them to develop their skill in different ways. How to challenge? What to challenge? In what way to challenge? That is your prerogative. You know them better. You know your class better. But challenge is one of the way through which you can make them perform several tasks which otherwise they are not ready to perform. So I think, friends, let us take it as a challenge and try to make our students, the future of our nation, more empowered in terms of language skills. I would like to thank Dr. Deep Trivedi
Thank you, sir.
for such an interesting and scholarly deliberation on teaching speaking. He talked about how to make teaching of speaking more effective. I thank him on behalf of MHRD National Resource Center of Gujarat University and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.